We've talked with the director quite often. His name is David Shinn. He joins us again. Where are we with PCR testing for inmates?
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate the opportunity to be with you again. First and foremost, I got to say, we are one of the only Western states and one of a handful of states nationwide that is testing our inmates system-wide. And I must say, this would not be possible were it not for, all the resources that have been provided to us by Governor Doug Ducey and our collaboration and the resources provided by CARE CRIST and the Department of Health Services. We are in our third week of PCR testing. We have initially scheduled it for a 90-day period of time, and we have reduced that down to about a 35 to 40-day period of time. We began with one testing team. We added a second testing team, and very shortly we're going to add a third testing team. We've gotten through the prison complexes at Safford, Douglas, Perryville, and Tucson. And we are tremendously grateful to have this resource, which very few throughout the country have.
So where are you? When do you expect to be done with this testing?
We're going to be done the first week of September. We have initially it was going to carry on into October, but we've been able to add additional resources and bandwidth to that, and we are far more effective and efficient at moving forward with this now.
So what happened down in Tucson at Whetstone? We saw this huge increase. Half the population down there was infected. Have you figured out how that happened?
Yes, absolutely. With increased testing, we were fully aware that we would see increased positives. There's a couple of vectors for infectious disease. Obviously, our staff are certainly one. Admissions into our system is the second. And then the third really is, what the public is concerned with as well, and that's asymptomatic spread. The ability to test as broadly as we are allows us to be more effective in our strategy to mitigate. And that's exactly what we were able to do down in Tucson with this information.
So, but this is a unique situation, isn't it? I mean, this is one hot spot as compared to other facilities. Or are you seeing this kind of spread with all the testing you're doing? Were you seeing these kind of numbers in other facilities?
No, you described it head on, Mike. It is a unique situation. This is not the norm throughout, the prison system. We've seen relatively low numbers of positives at other locations.
So what is it at Whetstone that you learned that are you implementing other protocol in other places because what you've learned there? And can you share with us a little bit of what happened there and why it spread so severely at that facility and how you're stopping that from happening in other places?
Sure. We are looking, and we do contact tracing on every single case that we have. We're looking at all those streams that we just talked about. Admissions from other locations, certainly our staff and the interaction that we have there. And then, as you know, we're able to test broadly with this, the asymptomatic spread and how we can better drill down to identify those folks earlier in the process.
So how is your coordinated? I know that there was some issues with the coordination at the beginning of this with the concern of bringing inmates from the jail system into the prison system when it was time. I know there was a lag time with that, trying to prevent it from coming into the prison system. How is that relationship working with the sheriffs around the state of Arizona in making sure inmates are not bringing it from jails into the prison, and what mitigation strategies are you using there?
Sure. We have dedicated significant effort to work with our sheriffs. As partners in this, we are most successful when we work as a state. And I don't say that the counties are not important. They are crucial in this fight. The more we collaborate, the more we share information, the better we can manage this process. We are fully capable of taking COVID positive inmates into our system, but the crucial part of this is making sure we don't transport positives and negatives together. Because when we do, we literally contaminate the entire group. So that's the part that we've really been laser focused, talking with our sheriffs, talking with their jail commanders to make sure we have that collaborative effort to make that as effective and as efficient as possible.
So now the accomplishment of testing all the inmates has been expedited, which is a great thing. What happens next? What measures will there be? Continued testing of the new inmates coming in? What are you doing after that once you have that data to make sure that you keep the spread from happening inside your system?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking that, Mike. For months now, we have had a pretty stringent process in place for admissions. All admissions into our system are quarantined for a 14-day period. We test them at least twice during that period before we move them to any other location. And that has been a pretty critical part to us. So we're really, really focused on that, along with any other inmate we move throughout our system. And we have to move folks from time to time to keep our numbers balanced throughout the system. We make sure that we test them before they're moved. And then any inmate who goes into the community, either for routine medical treatment or hospitalization for any reason, is also quarantined for 14 days upon return and tested as well.
We know that there are people that come in from the outside into the prison system, whether it's church groups, faith-based organizations, and even visitors into the prison. Are there any face-to-face visits happening, or are those all been stopped because of COVID?
That was one of our first concerns. We have eliminated all of those vectors of infectious transmission. The one positive thing we have recently been able to do, we have implemented video visiting months ago. I believe it was right before Mother's Day in May. We implemented video visiting, but we've recently been able to double the length of that. Previously, it was 15 minutes a week, and we've been able to double that to 30 minutes a week, and it still remains cost-free for our offender population.
That's excellent news. As always, I love having you on the show to update us on this, and after all this is over, I'd love to have you share all that data with us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mike. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks. That is David Shinn. He is the director of the Arizona Department of Corrections Rehabilitation and Reentry.